Hi, welcome to this video. Just want to say first off, thank you for sticking with me while I haven't made much content recently because I've had COVID. It's been quite a long and rough period, but slowly getting back to it. So I wanted to welcome you to this top 5 of the games that I played in 2021. First I'm going to do some honourable mentions that didn't make the top 5. Then I'm going to go into my personal top 5 games of 2021. So please like, subscribe and comment with what your top 5 are as well. It'd be lovely to hear back from you. So these 3 games are going to be my honourable mentions of 2021. I think it's been an amazing year for games, and it's been really difficult for me to actually pin down a top 5. So I've just gone for personal top 5 of games I've played this year. They might not have come out this year, but the games that I've played this year that I think have been brilliant and really stood out to me. These guys only just missed out slightly. I play these all a lot still. I've only just started on Pandemic Legacy. So to start off with, this has only just missed out on the top 5 because I've not really played much of it, and I think from what I've seen so far this most probably would be in my top 5 overall. So I wanted to give it a big shout out to start with. Amazing game, great fun with interactions and difficult choices that you make with other people. So it's a brilliant game to start with. Then looking at Ruthless, this game was actually sent to me by the designer as a review copy, and it's been one of our most played games as a couple with me and my fiance. Brilliant bit of poker building, kind of hand building, card management, shuffling, trying to get your hand better, trying to bury things so you don't come up again, and you can increase the likelihood of the good cards you bought coming out, but then at the cost of doing something else. Really interesting decisions, really great play, really fun, both enjoyed by myself and my fiance, so we play that a lot. And Jamaica is fairly new to me this year, but I have seen it before. But it's a great game to introduce anyone new to the hobby to. If you want to play a game with someone who's not a board gamer, you got friends around who aren't into board games, crack out Jamaica. Simple rules, easy to follow. You can explain some of the bonus cards, the treasure cards as they come out. So a fantastic game for non-gamers and gamers alike. A really good one to get people interested in the hobby to be. Then introduce them to some slightly more mechanical games after that if they get a bit of a taste for it. So those are my 3 honourable mentions that didn't quite make the cut but were very, very close. So Forgotten Waters is my number 5 game for 2021. I actually loved the game, and if I could play it more often and get more bigger groups together, I think this could be my number 1. Absolutely brilliant game. It's got great voice acting for each of the different characters. As you can see on the back, which is upside down, as you can see on the back, there's loads of stuff going on, there's loads of things to follow, different characters, different choices everywhere you go. People have to get onto these pages as quick as you can to then decide what actions they're going to get. The first person to get there can get it, and then sometimes that can disrupt your story from being improved and your other players, or you can try and be more cooperative depending on who you're with. Obviously it's a 3 to 7 player game, so if you can't get a big game group together, it's quite a difficult one to get to the table all the time. Although that had been improved with the online app, and the online system is really, really good. But nothing really beats being live in person with someone and all being together around one table. So I love this game. I love pirate games, I love pirate themes. This is most probably the best pirate game I've ever played, I think. And I just love it to bits. It's, like I say, if it was for easier to get to the table, this would be my number 1. But sometimes it's hard to get those numbers together, especially for a long 2 hour for a half a session or 4 hour for a whole mission. It's quite difficult to get that group of players together. That's the only thing that has held this game back on my list, but I absolutely love this game. I'll never get rid of it. It's one of my favourites. If this was just a personal top 5 of games that I love the most, then this would be number 1, I think. So Forgotten Waters, check it out, an amazing game. Number 4 on the list is Dwellings of Eldervale. As you can see, it's a massive box that I'm struggling to fit on the screen. It's taking up a lot of room on the table. It takes up a lot of space when you lay it out. It's an absolutely beautiful game. It's probably one of my most expensive games in my collection, if not the most expensive. But the gameplay is brilliant. You go into Eldervale, you're trying to place men out to get resources and points and magic cards, and try and get your dwellings built before other people do to score points. Then the more dwellings around your area, the more points you get. Absolutely phenomenal game. Every mechanic seems to run together into the next mechanic really well. It works brilliantly at 2 players. It works even as well up to 4 and 5 players. It's a great game to play, great game to introduce to gamers. My fiance even loves this, and she's not into the heavy games, but it is quite mechanically difficult to get your head around. The minis in this are great. There's loads of components. The trays in this are awesome to help you get it out. So just open the box if I can. These game trays are fantastic. You just get them out, lay them on the table, and you're nearly ready to go. So these game trays really help improve the gaming experience, which really bumps it up on my list. Box size is very similar to kind of a Gloomhaven box, but Gloomhaven doesn't have this type of stuff where you can just lay it on the table and go crack, ready to go. I love this game so much. The minis are great. I've even upgraded, as you might be able to see here, upgraded some of the trays with these from Etsy. So these are really cool upgrades with all the names on them. And these look really awesome, and they help stop you fraying the edges of the cardboard. So a lot of stuff in here, a lot of components, amazing production value, really great game. There's just one thing I think some people might not enjoy. The dice combat mechanic can make it a bit unfair at times, makes it seem impossible to win, but people can win 1 dice versus 5 dice. So if you're more about your strategy on how you're going to win battles and what strategies you're going to put in place, and then having the more people being the people who should win, then that's going to be maybe an issue for you, because in this game 1 dice can beat 5 dice, and it's happened to me multiple times. I've won or lost some of those, especially against my fiance, who seems to get a bit lucky sometimes with her rolls. So that can be a little bit annoying if you're a pure strategist. So that's why this game is number 4 and not slightly higher up the list. But still an amazing game, well worth trying. I highly recommend it if you can have a go. So number 3 on the list is Too Many Bones. I've only recently got it, but I'm absolutely loving this game. I've zoomed in a bit so you can see the components, but I want to open it up. An amazing dice building adventure kind of game. From Chip Theory Games, who make games with more premium kind of components. So all these dice, as you can see, they have their own uses. Lots of times you're not even really rolling them. Like this is a poison dice and has other effects on it, and you just place them on your character and then roll it from 3 to 2. Next round it'll drop 2 to 1. Once you start playing it, all of these pieces make sense, but there is a lot of pieces to get used to. So this would have been maybe number 1 or 2 as well, but it's got a very high barrier to entry. So that, I think, is a bit of an issue for some people. Even simple things like trying to get a better loot card. There's 2 types of loot cards. There's regular loot, and then there's a trove loot, which is locked behind things. You have to roll these dice to try and unlock pick the locks. Then sometimes you get extra dice or reroll dice or upgrades to those lock picking mechanics, and that can be even complicated. Your battles have got markers on them for rounds. Once you get past round 5, every round after that, all of the people in the battle take 1 damage at the start of their turn. There's loads of little things to get used to, and then you've got your character's dice. So for example, this grey tray here, all these grey dice, they're for 1 character you play as, 4 ability upgrade dice, and then 16 unique dice to that character. So this one, for example, is for Tantrum, and he does gets a rage ability, does quite a bit of damage, but also doesn't have tons of defense. He can be quite tricky to play as you build up his rage meter. Then you don't start with all of these, you have to get them by upgrading your character as you go along the adventure. There's loads of different adventure pieces if I take out some of these things as well. 4 characters you start with in the main box. See these chips, you might be able to see here, these poker chips. That's what you use, that's why they're called Chip Theory, because the chips they use are kind of poker chips. So these have the enemies on, and these are amazing components, which for example here's just one, a 5-point baddie, so you can see what it looks like. So it's got health, how fast it is in battle, how many attack dice it rolls, with other symbol for defense dice, which this one doesn't have. Its special kind of features, hardy and inspire, who it's going to attack, where it goes on the battle mat, what type of enemy it is. So there's quite a lot of stuff going on in the game. These health trackers go underneath the die of the pieces, the enemies or yourself, your characters, to track your health. Each one of them being 1 HP, which is a really cool way of doing things. I've even bought like an upgraded map for this, which if I can find under here. I've bought this map, which is used for the main game, and then also the other side is for an expansion for Undertow, which I'm hoping to get hold of in the future. So there's loads of pieces, and the battle mats are complicated and the whole rules are complicated, but then once you get into it, the whole game makes sense and it runs amazingly well, and the battles are great, and there's loads of choices and your upgrades are brilliant. So overall this game is absolutely fantastic. There's just a lot to get your head around to start with. So that is my pick for number 3, Too Many Bones. Highly recommend trying it if you can get someone to teach you, especially. It's quite hard to learn on my own, but now that I know the basics, I'm really loving the game. Can't wait to get some more stuff. So my pick for number 2 is extremely difficult to choose. It's between these two games and I just couldn't really pick. I think this would maybe be my number 1 if I didn't play the other game more often with my partner. But number 2 is Marvel Champions. I play this all the time on my own. I have the other expansion, the Red Skull one, on the way that I don't have here. And I am constantly playing this. I talk to a lot of people online about it and look at the game all the time. I look for updates. I just out a shot here, you'll be able to see I've got a box there and a box there. They're both 1,000 card holding boxes, and I'm now struggling to fit stuff in, so I'm going to have to take the components out and figure out where to store them. Off to the side here you can see I've got Scarlet Witch and Nebula and the Wrecking Crew, which I'm about to sleeve, and I don't have any space in my boxes to put them anywhere. So that's how much I love this game. I want everything, I want to play everything. I want to play with one other person maybe sometimes, but mainly I play this solo. I love the decisions. I love constantly having to battle with someone and figure out how best to use my cards, depending on how they come out in order. Sometimes it's good to get a card that will give you resources throughout the game, but then if you get that card later on, it might be a bit too late for that and you're not going to get as many free resources out of it, so you're better to spend that on something else that'll give you more damage straight away. All these type of decisions in every game are great. The characters are all really different. I love playing as each of the different heroes. I'd also love coming up with some different battles for them. I love reenacting battles that you see on the films, like something like Spider-Man versus Green Goblin, one of my favourites. Iron Man versus Ultron, or Iron Man and Thor versus Ultron, or now I've got Scarlet Witch. I'm going to start trying to play Scarlet Witch with her brother Quicksilver and do team battles, and playing Ant-Man and Wasp together to fight other people is brilliant because their synergy is amazing and great fun. There's just so much you can do. There's so much variability. There's ways to make it expert mode. There's ways to play it even more than expert, super hard. It's just got so much gameplay. I don't think I'll ever get rid of Marvel Champions. I don't think I'll ever get bored of it. I don't think I'll ever want to stop playing it. It's a game that I love. Especially as I play a lot of it solo on my own. This was going to be my number 1, but actually I play the other game that is number 1 more often with my partner, which is more what I think gaming is about, playing with other people. So that's the only reason it's missed out, and it's missed out by a very slim margin. There's a chance that next year it will be back to number 1. So I'm at my number 1. Didn't want to give it away straight away, in case people wanted to have a little guess on what they thought it would be. My number 1, no surprise if you follow me on Instagram, is going to be Lost Ruins of Arnak by Czech Games Edition. This game is simply fantastic. I don't think it would have been number 1 though. There's a slight caveat. It wouldn't have been the number 1 if it didn't come with this Expedition Leaders expansion as well, which I'm going to zoom out a little bit to hopefully see. I know I won't zoom out because my camera's already zoomed out as far as it can. So this expansion is amazing. It adds more variability. It makes each game different. Depending on which character you choose, depends on how you're going to want to play. This woman here, for example, she's really good at getting money and buying cards and getting them straight into your hand. This guy at the back, the shaman type looking guy, he takes on more fear cards and can burn through them to get himself benefits. This falconer woman's got a falcon on her arm and she can recall that back to get benefits. I'd never really realised before, but these characters here on the left of the main Arnak box, they're the other 3 characters that are included in here. This guy gets an extra meeple to use every round, which is really strong. But obviously his cards aren't as good as the rest, it seems. This woman gets more kind of token things to move across the board. So she can go to a lot of places and visit more temples and shrines than a lot of the other people. And this guy's really good with his artifacts. He can get some in his, he's got like a briefcase thing that he takes with him. So that really adds a lot to the game, adds a load of variability. Me and my fiance have played this, maybe the main game before the expansion came out, about 25 times. We just weren't bored of it, but we were starting to get a little bit tired and think, oh yeah, we know what we need to do. We're basically just then working on our min-maxing and trying to get the highest possible scores we could, depending on obviously what cards come out on the items and the artifacts. But now that this has come out, we really want to play again every day, all the time. My missus wants to play, I want to play. It's really interesting. It adds new mechanical cards in there. It adds a few new mechanics that are not really that different, but add a bit more to the game, give you more variability. And these characters are really great to play with. They just really turn it up a notch. It makes it a little bit more difficult, and this will be a little bit more difficult for newcomers to get into. So if you are introducing the game to a new person or someone who prefers lighter to medium weight games, I'd say start with the base first. Once they're used to the base, if they enjoy that, then introduce the expedition leaders, because that can be quite overwhelming for a new person to play. But I guess if you give them this guy, he's quite simple to use, so maybe that wouldn't be an issue. But we absolutely love this game. We play it all the time, and it was a really difficult decision for me between this and Marvel Champions for number 1. But I think this has just edged it out, because playing it with other people is an amazing experience, and I don't really want to play Marvel Champions with other people. I want to play that on my own. So as a board game overall, I would say that Arnak is my number 1 for 2021. Amazing game. I recommend you go and try it if you haven't already. And if you can, get the expansion, because it's absolutely phenomenal as well. I'd say it's a 9 out of 10 without the expansion, but with it I'd give it a 10 out of 10. One of the best games I've ever played. It's amazing. Go get it. So thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great end to 2021 and an amazing 2022. Hit me up in the comments with your favourite 5 games from this year. I know mine is quite subjective to what I've played this year. Not all of them came out this year, so your game list might be quite different to mine. I'd love to hear your opinions and any recommendations for me to try as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon.